Yes, that was Flicker Stick, beautiful. That's what it was. You know, my YouTube just switched it up really quick. I don't know. Okay, they want to push another my favorite, the Blackstone Cherry, Blind Man, and God knows I love that song. Anyway, good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is Monica, your friend Monica. Now that song that you heard, Flock a Stick, beautiful. The band is an awesome band. It's a white rock band, and I only have 3.1 subscribers on YouTube. I think that's a good music. Everybody should subscribe to that channel, just like you should subscribe to me, Agar_M. Okay, you should do that because again, my goal is to keep this YouTube channel forever. And if you don't do that, YouTube's gonna do funny things like delete my shit because hey, I'm a communist and they don't like that. But please help me out. I want it for, listen, 100 years from now, the Augustine family can say, hey, we had a brownie in this family. What was that brownie was thinking, right? Because again, I didn't reproduce children with my husband. So it may not be an Augustine brownie even for the foreseeable future. Hopefully I change their mind that they should seek out other types of thing here, like black women and stuff. That would be nice. Although my mother-in-law, Jean, the principal character, she told me something. You know, it just reminded me of something. She told me that one of her nephew marry a Japanese woman. That's what she told me. Now that's not an Augustine because that's the Garris family. The Garris family is my mother-in-law family. I love that family too, by the way. As fuck. I like that family. That's when, remember the Christmas party we used to go? The Garris were there, more or less. The Augustine was more or less our family here. Not descendant Augustine, but just us and this family with my mother-in-law. But the Garris family was there, and I love all of them. I love Tracy. I love other people there. I just love them. In fact, we used to get, I don't know who I get here, but it's a family that used to send us, my husband, Thanksgiving, Christmas card. It's a white family, blonde, everything. And we didn't get it this year, but typically we usually get it. I don't know what happened this year, but I hope they will change their mind and keep doing that because I like that. It makes me feel like they love us here in this household. So that was that. But anyway, going back to the music that I was telling you about. That was a recommendation from my husband. Now I started doing that to make sure for my husband to give me the music instead of me picking my music because I'm a leftist and I'm gonna pick up leftist stuff like Phil Oakes, or I will pick up something like Nina Simone. People who make social commentary, right? That's what I would be doing. Although my husband like a lot of that, he does. He do like that. That's okay. But I want my husband to concentrate on my video. Let me put it that way. I want him. Although I don't have to convince my husband on anything because he's been with me for nearly a decade. He already programmed, so to speak. Not programmed, but like he's still a Republican, still think like white folks and still act like white folks, and he's pretty much a white guy. But he is open-minded to people, okay? Let's put it that way. Although my husband also, something else. He had dated black women before, so it's not a strange thing for her. He's very like that. He really doesn't care, right? Again, he had a shadow here. And even though that was white going on, it was not the kind of white that these people were like. So, but that's besides the point. So my husband is open-minded, I'll say. He just is. You know, as you may know, he was a firefighter. And he befriended the tokens blacks they may have there consistently, and he has profound conversation with those people. So generally, my husband is just borderline perfect for me. So that was that. So that's what this music. So every day I'm gonna have a different music because my husband is a music nerd and he knows who is who in rock world, and we will be hearing a lot of rock music. But anyway, going back to we usually start our family play with what's happening in the world. Now I had to tell you something this morning. I didn't know what's happening in the world because again, the way I feel about the world right now, it's just dire. It's dark, right? The few holdups we usually have, like Venezuela, like Cuba, like Iran, it seems like they all dying out. And it looked like what we were left with, it's just this white degeneracy, supremacy shit going on. And then, as a leftist, I don't like that. Because, again, I want to transform this shit to, if I'm being honest, communism. And these kind of people who empower the neocons, the white degenerates like I call them, that's not what they have in mind. Their thing is genocide, and let's just make things all white, make this shit ethno state assert, got Christian and shit, and then that's that. So I know it's going on, and I just feel like, hey, remember my number one role is being David's wife, and I want to be alive, and I want my husband to have me for the next 40 or 50 years, so I can be 100 years old, like Noam Chomsky. So I try to preserve my well-being, so to speak, and I don't get too much. I don't go on Twitter as much, and again, the news that I could receive through the colonial press, the mainstream press, the white supremacy garbage, is not news. But sometimes I do see what's happening because, again, my husband has the WGN going on around the clock. But usually it's nothing that catches my eyes. So I just move away and go read something more interesting. So that's that. Now, but I did say, okay, I do have this thing. And people expect me to say, what's happening in the world? I do have to have something for them. And I did. All I had to do is open my phone right here and go to Twitter. And we got a tweet from Kas Patel, right? Now, Kas Patel is briny, right? He's Hindu America. And let me just say, I don't like him, okay? He's disgusting. Let me just say that. He's borderline garbage. But anybody that can amount to be the FBI director, it's just trash, okay? Because I'm a leftist, and believe me, I do not like anybody that can amount to be who and who in U.S. state, okay? Or corporation or anything like that. I just don't like none of them. These people just make me want to throw up. But, hey, I have to tell you what Mr. Patel said today. He tweeted and he said this, and I'm quoting here. The world knows that if you kill an American citizen, it's an act of terrorism. We will hunt you down. That's what Mr. Patel said. This human garbage, in other words. Now, if you know something about leftists, we do not respect identity. We only respect something called human. There's notion that if you kill American, you're not a terrorist. Seem supremacy to the unbelievable proportion. Because, yeah, it's true. You shouldn't be killing anybody. It should be illegal. But the notion that if you're an American, somehow you're not a terrorist because you kill in America. No, you may be a criminal, but you're not a terrorist. Right? Because as far as I know, in my definition, U.S. is a terrorist state. Right? So if that's the case, this whole thing is already invalidated. And that's what I'm talking about. Okay? That's how you need to think. Okay? Because not you, there's people, there's American, they are committing a genocide in Palestine as we speak. These people bombing Somalia on the regular. These people are starving Cuba. These people that just kill a bunch of Venezuela, Cuban, and what have you, steal the president. That's what these people do. They are literally the terrorists on planet Earth. Chinese don't do that. Russians don't do that. That's US who does that. So let me just say, as a leftist, I have no respect. None, zero whatsoever. Because again, this kind of shit going on, this kind of instrument is what I want to destroy, if I'm being honest. But the only way that we can accomplish that is by going back to our white folk. And that brings me to the play. All right? Now, yesterday, I was a very special show. Okay? I spoke about my beloved daughter. So that one was good. But the one before that was also great because I spoke another awesome kid, right? Another awesome kid. Now you should go watch those shows. I did notice something before we go on. That when I publish my videos, I publish them first on Facebook. And the way I do this is because I'm reading the book, The Black Shirts and Reds, The Rationalize of Fascism and the Overthrow of Communism. People who may be interested in books, I want people to be interested in reading because studies show us that in US, people just do not read. The last time they read was in high school. So I want people, I know we are busy and I don't read a lot either. At least I used to not. Now I have more time, so I have more time to read. So people here don't read, but reading is important because reading will let you know what the ruling class up to, more or less, right? Does that make sense? So that's what the ruling class, the white degenerates, like I'm calling them, what they're doing. So if you don't read, right, or at least you don't know who to follow that does the reading, like me, because sometimes I don't do the reading, but I know who read. That's Dr. Anand Hussein, at the Kingston University in Queens, Canada. So I follow him. I know he's going to be doing the reading. So I follow him. I follow podcasts of people who read. And I know they don't just read. They try to dissect what's going on. And it helps me. So that's that. So that's why I'm doing the read, right? So I'm trying to read. I'm trying to promote people who will be inspired for these books. And we can do that. So I do that. And the way I do this is I just take the subtitle of the book I'm reading, and then I say it comes from, say, in this case, Dr. Parenti, and I give him credit for that. So I do that. Now, I noticed something yesterday on Facebook. Okay, so that's what I do. Usually, on average, on Facebook, I want to say, on my viewership, is typically a little bit over 100. Okay, sometimes I get more if I am giving them quotes and stuff. But my estimation is the viewership on Facebook is typically 100 or more, or a little bit more, maybe 150 or something like that. And that makes me happy because I know that somebody out there is reading with me, and that makes me feel like it's worthwhile, right? And I like it. But I noticed something yesterday. That viewership was drastically little. In fact, it was something like 25. So I'm thinking that, speaking of the FBI and CIA, they control Facebook. So I'm a radical, and I'm telling you, you cannot get any more leftist than me, right? So they may not want me to be out there, and they may suppress this artificially. So I want you to know that's going on because that's strange. From 150 to 25. No, something is not working here. And I know stuff not working for the way it's supposed to. Now, yesterday I did a little better on YouTube. And I'm happy about that too. Although I did have to call my mom to watch some. And she too. Again, she's just like everybody else. She's just not going to sit here and listen to me. In fact, she don't hear very well. And forget about my children. They're just not even into this thing. But they're not really my most important audience. My most important audience is actually white folk, okay? White families, people who don't see black people on the regular, so to speak. I want them to watch my stuff. Now, it may not feel comfortable because I'm very critical of white life, but I do want them to give me a hearing, and I really do hope you will listen to me. You'll see my family play. Because I'm just trying to highlight things from my perspective, how the way white folks operate. And again, I want to remind you what my goal really is to bring this thing to a better world, right? To bring to a better world, to avoid things like genocides, to avoid things like, um, poverty and stuff that just seem not right within human societies. And I think that if white folk open mind a little bit, right, we can get somewhere. Now you'll say, white people are the perfect citizen here. They're perfect and everything, and they don't do nothing wrong. And I would agree with you, but in my estimation, there's a lot they can improve. So that's what this is all about, okay? All right, so that's that. Now, I want to, now, if you remember yesterday, I told you about Pelerina. I'm not going to recount that because, first of all, I did a job with that yesterday. But the way my daughter operates with this paradigm is impressive to me. Now, Pelerina love me for sure and respect me, but we have, I want to call it a strange relationship. Not a strange relationship, but it's like a small complication, right? Like, and if you watched the episode yesterday, you will see why. Because we just have like a relationship where I think she would demand more of me, right? And that's just how it is, right? It's good. We have a good relationship. I have a good relationship with all my kids. I like to think. They feel like I'm not like a good mom, so to speak, right? I'm just a mom. That's all I am to them. And hey, for them, they just get to see their mom one day. That's awesome. That's just like that. So they're happy. So more or less, that's the relationship how I am with my children. Right? And I told you about that. But that's besides the point. What I do want to bring your attention to is think about how Pelerina maneuver this whole thing, like, and she picked it up on her own because again, if you remember yesterday, she was doing some stuff. Although I'm happy that she do them, do make me feel slightly off, right? Because I'm worried about her, but she do them anyway, and as a result, it just make me feel like proud mom, so to speak. And that's what I want white folks to consider. Instead of fucking seeing like, okay, black and crime, and stuff like that, consider what you could do to raise above all of that, right? Be open-minded, like my husband. How about that? Yes, like my husband. And that brings me back to my mother-in-law, principal character Jean. Now, if you know by now that the play really started with her, okay? That's what this happened. It started with her. She did something that I don't agree with at all, right? I just don't. I just think like it is wrong, to be honest with you. It's wrong because not so much, although, yeah, she did it wrong for me. But as a leftist, I'm more really a villain. Yeah, and maybe that's why she acts that way. Maybe that's why she acts that way, because I'm a leftist. I'm critical of U.S. as is. I just am, okay? I am a critic of USA. So I'm started to be comfortable with that role, and I've been like that for a very long time. In fact, when you when you leftist, you truly know you leftist since this. Especially, I have my Facebook account. And I have my Facebook account now. I think it's pushing, it's going close to 20 years. And of course, I didn't start off like this. Leftist, it's hard to be a leftist, right? But I was already kind of, I'm a little bit like my daughter, although I'm not like her, to be honest. Oh, she's just smart. I'm not smart. I struggle with learning and everything. I just, yeah, I'm not a quick learner, I would say. But I have an intuition. That's what I do have. I have an intuition. I'm not easily impressed with shit. You what I do and get impressed by is characters. Okay, that's what impressed me. If a character is just the right character for me, you got me. You got me. I'm a psycho for that. That's why you see I love Aiden. Okay. I just like it. Also, if you pay attention to my episode, I like Rocco because he picked up, hey, this Ronnie, Uncle David girlfriend, she talks about white supremacy. Maybe she'll never heard that in his life, but he picked that up. And I know where he picked that up from me. And I like that. So that tells me something about Rocco. That he is just cool, I guess. He is cool. And if you know Rocco, you know what I mean. He's just a cool kid. I just loved it very much. So I say that, and I also say that about Aiden, another cool kid, and Rose, another cool kid that impressed me. And of course, I told you about Pilarina and stuff like that. And honestly, and I just children that I pick up, I picked that in adults. My husband is cool as far as I'm concerned. And I just, sometimes I find these people within my social circles and I see that. And to be completely honest, my husband, mom, is the same way. She is like that. She is somebody that make you think. It's just that kind of white woman. I think that she's open-minded, if I'm being honest. There's some characteristics about her that just teach me a lot about her. And she's not blunt like me, right? She is not. So I pick her behavior pattern and I work with that, right? I just pick her behavior patterns. And if you've been watching this episode, you will see that that's what's happening here. So she is like that. Now, when it comes to my mother-in-law, Jean, the principal character, I can tell. I mean, I don't know everything about this woman, but what I do know is she, in her experience, the way she grew up or something, is the woman who know that black people exist. Let me put it that way. She does. She knows what black people exist. And I think that her father, for example, is the kind of white man that he does not like black people. I'm going to put it that way. He just doesn't. But at the same time, he know their people and they're here in the world. And this man, in my estimation, based on the very little snippet I got from my mother-in-law, is that, yeah, he may not like black people for whatever. He just thinks that these dark-skinned, strange, they do weird things like Dr. Kelly and the story we talk about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to episode 6. We spoke about Dr. Kelly's father and all the crazy stuff that he does. So that's a black man. And I may add, that's not uncommon. That's an experience of black men in general. So let's put that aside. But my understanding is this. This man is a typical white man in America, I like to say. And although a lot of white men in his generation, or conservative white men, so to speak, they you don't think of them as the KKK members or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. And even if they are, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is this: they're just frustrated with this whole thing about we have these black folks in here. It seems like a problem, but it's a problem that never go away, so to speak. So they're here, and it's a perpetual problem because it's the problem they've been having with these black folks for centuries. In fact, that's all they ever know. So that's what's going on here. And the gentleman does not like black folks a lot, I think, but he does cares a little bit about them, right? And according to my mother-in-law, he would do stuff like he would give black folks money or something like that. I don't know in what context, but he does do that. He will give them money. So for me, that man is already explained a lot, okay? Because mind you, it's not like white people want to be this way. It's just the thing I've been saying about acculturation thing that we go through. And so for him, he feel like he had to give black folks money in a way. So that tells me he knows something about black people. He knows that these people probably need money. They struggle somewhat. And I don't like them, but they're here. And I think this could help them out, so to speak, right? So that's the context that my mother-in-law grows in, okay? All right, so that's that. So when she sees somebody like me who is bombastic and she talks stuff, she recall that. Now she tells me the story. Why would she tell me something like that? It's because he picks up in the spirit for me that I am a credit, right? And I'm credit of white folks. Let's put it that way. I'm just a credit of white folk as it is. And so she tells me. So that's who this woman is. I don't think this is the kind of woman like my mom, right? Who will go out there and pick a black man and marry and have children. I don't think so. Even she wanted to do something, I don't think she would have been brave enough to do that, right? That would be just a strength. That would be like going out of your body or something, right? That's what I picked up from my mother-in-law. So why I say that? Because with this woman, my mother-in-law, she says something else. So one day, let me say something. We are in the second house of principal, the minor character, Tom. When we didn't have his now ex-wife and her 2 kids, if you recall that episode. If you don't, go back and you'll find it. But if you do not, but for right now, just follow along with me. So we in this house, and my mother-in-law asked me a question. She asked me about my background, right? And I told her about my background and stuff. And I told him about the fact that my father, an African man, first of all, I told her that I grew up with my grandmother, an African woman, right? So I grew up in Africa with my grandmother. And the reason that happened is that my father is a black man and he's from Africa. And he was in a relationship with my mother. And the relationship did not work out. So now he has 2 kids. And then my father is in Spain here. I'm talking about Spain. He have the experience like Dr. Kelly's father. If you could go back to that story, you'll know what I'm talking about. He is a black man in Spain. And black men, first of all, you have to understand something about black men. A black man in planet Earth, especially if they're in white countries, they are what we call a villain. Like me. Hey, that's right. They are just a villain. And it's a strange thing. These men are dark. Obviously, conspicuous dark men. They also have the thing that colonization, whole African was basically colonized. They the whole thing about these people is that they're not like white men. Let's put it that way. White men is like in America. It's a lot of things they don't have to worry about. They don't have to worry about if they go on the street, for example. People will be afraid of them or something like that. But a black man does though consistently. And if they do not, they have to be stupid or something. I don't know what that is. But a black man is just a villain. Right? They just make this man a villain. Now, if you don't believe, and I'm not gonna go deep into this thing because that's something that is well known. You can go to Professor Curry. Right? He talks about it. He writes about it. For example, he wrote a book called Men Not. Right? Men Not. Right? So that's what these men are. They are men for sure, but they're not like respectable men. Okay, right. They're not respectable men. Now, when you make a man like that is not respectable in life in general, and they are a villain, there's something with these men. So when it comes to women, especially women, um, women also afraid of these men, but some women though like that. Okay, so they choose men like that. I just women will find them attractive a little bit. I think this is what that is. So women will find because they are villain, and a man's supposed to be a villain because I get hello. We live in U.S. and that's just thing. But they're villain, but they also like okay. So they are villain. They are threat, and but they also at the same time they make them seem like they don't do things that men supposed to do, right? Like my husband, for example, go out there, find somebody you have children with and stuff like that. They do it, but not quite like that because it's just complicated. So that's what these men are. They're just these strange creatures, right? That's what the man is. So my father, in this case, he is in Spain. He's with my mother, and he just don't behave like. And from my mother perspective, the way a husband should behave, so to speak, he does not take the relationship too seriously. Like, and I share that viewpoint with my mom. If I'm in a relationship with a man and he does not put me before anything, that's not gonna go very far. Let's put it that. And so he just don't take my mom seriously, but now he had to kiss with this woman. So he's out there with other women and everything like that. And he also procreate other children, or another kid there. But then for whatever reason, he said, okay. And then my father too is, he's not political. Let me put it that way. He's not political. And he was removed from his family when he was very young. He was 8 years old. So my father, I think he missed his family in Africa. And so he wanted to go back to Africa, right? And then in Spain, he is also running with trouble, like Dr. Kelly father. He is running away from the law, okay? I think that's my understanding from my mother. He did something in Spain you don't supposed to do, and now you in trouble with the law, right? I don't think he killed anybody. It has something to do with not. And Spain is very strict. You have to make sure you got license for driving and stuff, stuff like that. So it was not like criminal, like in the way that somebody died or stealing or anything like that. No, it was just like technical things that for white folks it's not a big deal, but for black folks it tend to be a problem. So that's what happened with that. So then my father knew like, okay, I have these two girls, my daughters, with this woman, and I want to go back to Africa, and I'm running away from this law, and no, I'm not coming back. But I don't want to leave my children, so to speak, right? I do not want to leave these girls. I love my daughters to death, and I am gonna take my children. So she now have another girlfriend, another white woman. Her name is Dora. Um, he tricked my mom. That's essentially what he did. He told my mom that, hey, I'm gonna go show my kids my family, and it will be all okay, and I'll bring them back. And he has the another Spanish white woman, girlfriend at the time, actually girlfriend, right? And they went to Africa. And then when my dad already left with us and we already in Africa, somebody I think in the neighborhood, another African, told my mom, "Where's the girls?" He said, "Hey, they went with their dad to see their family." And then the black folk there was like, "Oh my God, lady, you made a horrible mistake. You're never gonna see your kids again." And essentially, and they were right. And my mom had just devastated this white woman. My mom, she had never recovered from this. This is terrible. And if you're a mother, you know what can you imagine. So my mom, let me just say, he does not like my father at all. And so my mom trying to see if she could get help and with the stay in Spain. And now it's a diplomatic thing, and they're not gonna rock the boat. They were already the colonizers in Equatorial Guinea, and it's not worth trying to find these two girls and trying to write up Africans or whatever that whole thing was. My mom also considered doing other things like hiring like some black people, like say Nigeria, who could try to kidnap us there, I think essentially in Africa. But then my mom did a calculation. No, at least these girls, I know for sure, because my mom know my family. I mean, she never met them, but she know the type of family my dad comes from. And in Africa, is this country, it is a good country. It's a good people. African people are just generally good people, kind people, loving people. But they are attached to children and they love people. So my mom know that although we definitely gonna struggle, there's gonna be a different life. It's just we're not gonna go to good schools. We're not gonna have, it. And before we went though, she made sure we got all the vaccination and everything. So she knew that we could survive, so to speak, because we got all the vaccination and everything. And she also knew that those people love us to death. Okay, we are their babies. So my mom said, no, I'm not gonna do that, because then if she does that, what's gonna happen? Well, no, at least these kids are with the family there. And my mom just let it out. She took a trip with my stepdad to try to see if she can recover us, and then they gave her a run around, and she did it, and that was that. So my mom we were in Africa, and what my dad did is this. Now he kidnapped his own kids, and my mom said, okay, fine, since you don't want to give me my kids back, you should put them in school. And my dad don't have any money whatsoever, but my mom does, and she lived with my grandmother in Spain, and my grandmother just gave them the money to enroll us in school. And my dad also want his kids to be educated, so she put us. Oh, first of all, before that, my dad girlfriend Dora, she works at the what we call Colegio Español in Africa, and so she's a teacher there. She's a white woman. She's a teacher. So me and my sister could go to school there for a while. Now that didn't last long because Dora got pregnant with my father's child, and I don't know what happened in the relationship. My understanding, according to one of my uncles, is that my dad and Dora got into problem, and Dora literally had to escape. All right, so she had to escape, Dora, my mom. And so because we were in school because of her, it's a private school. It's a school for uppity. It's really Spaniards, who diplomats and stuff, who take the kids, they're white folk. And also uh, black people who are extremely wealthy, right? Not black people, the kind of upper class, the corrupt people, and they have the money, they can pay them, and they can send their school there. So it's the kind of people who will know to send their kids in a private school. Right, so that didn't last very long. So we got out. But after that happened, my mom and my dad were a little bit in contact, and she told my mom that, hey, put the kids in private school. There is a private school there. It's a Catholic school. And it's called Colegio Santo Angel. It's a Catholic school. So my mom pays these people, right? Now, these are nuns, okay? And the embassy in Spain and Africa knew that my dad did that, okay? And the nuns could potentially do something like, hey, these are Spanish girls. You stole them and you shouldn't do that. You remove them from their country, right? And they would have done something. Take us, right? Well, at least that's what my dad, that's what he's thinking. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna just take us and send us back to our mom. And so because of that, he said, I want my kids to be educated for sure, but I'm not having it. Took us out of the school. That was it. Took me and my sister and took us to his mother, who lived in a village, which we call Otet, okay? So we live in a village. And this village, I love my grandmother to death. I love the village life. But we don't really have, we will get school for sure, but it's not going to be much. So, because there's really nothing going on there. So that's the experience. So we in this place, really no electricity, nothing. It's a village the way you were thinking. For the white folks, it may be something in the Stone Age, right? Something like that. Something that white women make fun online as these, what century is this? That type of thing. But for me, as a kid, I love everything, every aspect of it. Everything just seemed fantastic. And I'm not going to bore you with all of that. I just love the shit out of everything. But it's other things that breaks my heart, and I won't go through that either. So that's the thing. So that's what happened with that. So anyway, so that's what my dad did with us in here. So then I told I didn't go a lot of details, but that's what happened with us, with my dad and my mom. So I told my mother-in-law that, hey, I grew up with my grandmother. And my mother-in-law did something I like. He was like, hey, yes, grandmothers and stuff. And that's that. And then I told her that, we grew up with, I told her more or less, my mom and dad broke up and she took us to Africa and we grew up there. And then I told her that, and then what happened is when I turned 18 years old, I did something. I wrote a letter, right? And I saw, I want to call it white man. Okay, there's a white man. Now, this white man took this letter to Spain, and it wound up on my grandmother's hand. And once by that I mean my mother's mother. Okay, her name is Pilar. And my grandmother basically knew what to do. Is swiftly send the money, send the birth certificate, and they're gonna give us the passport, tickets, and ready to go, and send it there. But so now I do want to say something about this white man that I gave this stuff. This white man is the type of white man that I would assume the so-called American people, that if you kill them, they're terrorists. He helped me out, and I'm happy about it. But I do think he's a bit I don't call it evil. It's just white folks or white men, or or black men or men who just do things like violate children's, right? I won't go into that, but they take children innocent away from them. But that's okay. It happened, and I just don't even. As a me, it doesn't. It didn't cost me. It doesn't cause me harm because by that time, it's not the first time it happened to me. It happened to me multiple times. So that was that. Now going back to my mother-in-law here. Um, is this? So I told her all of this, and she did listen to me, and that was that. But she said something that caught my attention. She said something about tradition, right? She said something about tradition, right? All right, and from my understanding, I think what he meant tradition is this. My mom, for example, got away from her tradition, marry a black man, right? At least that's what I'm thinking. I hope I'm not overthinking this, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go with this. So she's thinking about tradition. So my mom got away from her tradition and went with the black man, right? And now look at the experience that she had with this black man. Okay, I don't know if it's true because the way I see it, my mom and my dad speak the same language. They speak Spanish, okay? That's that. And not only that, my mom country, Spain, colonized Equatorial Guinea. So, in a way, it's the same tradition, right? So, that's that. My dad, if he does read, he reads. In fact, I know because I have one of my dad's book here, and he studies psychology. It's written by Spaniards. The Equatorial Guinean. There's barely any author that I know of that ever wrote a book. So Spaniards does that for them. They write the books, and my dad reads that. Songs, they also sing that. Yes, we do speak local languages. That's true. But the official languages in Africa, and at least in our country, Equatorial Guinea, is Spanish. So, from my perspective, my mom and my dad are the same tradition, right? Now, my dad is not, at the time, was not very religious, but my dad's family is Christian. In fact, the whole reason he was even in Spain is because his father, who was a preacher, sent him there to study theology before he died on car accident. And now my dad is stranded in Spain, not trying to figure out how to survive. All right, so then, all right, so that's the tradition thing. All right, so that's how I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, there's really no different tradition between my mom and dad. They're the same religion, same language. Yeah, my mom is Spaniard, and her life is definitely way, way better than my father's family. But they now related, and have been related for 300 years, okay, by this point, like literally. So I can't buy this whole tradition thing, right? So the only difference my mom and dad is really outwards, like meaning that my mom is white and my dad is black, true, but in terms of tradition and like tradition, I think it's the same, okay? And white folks, intelligent one at least, know that, okay? But the reason US is powerful is because the English language is in everybody's mouth, right? And that gives US it immense power, not just US, but UK before it. So that's how I think about tradition. Now, part of the reason my mother-in-law may have picked this up, it may be that, but it may be something else. When I first moved here with my husband, after we got married, actually, I moved in before we got married. I did few things in this house. That there was always Christmas tree here, gone, trash, and I just changed everything in our house. Okay, I just did that. My husband used to give his kids like at least 20 things. They would give him a list, and he has to pick this list and buy them shit. That was got to. No, it's not a thing. Not anymore. Okay. So for my mother-in-law, I may not communicate these things with them, but these two girls are communicating everything that's happening in the house. So for me, I'm thinking, for my mother-in-law, and this one is there, she is really taking away these kids' tradition from them. That would be my guess. Right? Alright, so that's that. I'm taking the kids' tradition away from them. Right? And that's what I'm talking about. Right? I'm taking the kids' tradition away from them. Now, that's what happened in that house. But there's another thing that made me think about this tradition thing that my mother-in-law is concerned about. That day that he felt I need to intervene here, she said something that I agree with her. Okay, let me just say that. I agree with her. But I do have questions about that. She told my husband something like, when I come to his two kids, the kind of lifestyle those girls had, and it just seemed unrealistic, right? It just seemed unrealistic. And they said that. I don't know why she said that. And I agree with her because I saw it. It's extremely unrealistic. It was annoying the fuck out of me, but I didn't say a single word. For example, especially Lacey. And although for my husband, this is why I see it, he liked Lacey. I want to say she loved both of his daughters. He liked most of them. But she more differential to Lacey, in my opinion. And for Emily, she loved her to death. But for him, it's like, Emily just like, it's hard to keep up with. Lacey does everything that, some of it anyway, that he likes, okay? That he likes. He just thinks that she's doing what she's supposed to do, so to speak. But for me, I'm the reverse. I like Emily to death. I mean, yes, because in the workforce, I just see people like Emily left and right, and I like them. They're different. They're just different. But it's okay. And honestly, I already talked to him about this. She's okay. In fact, right now, she's in the right path as far as I'm concerned. But for Lacey, though, let me just say, I'm not going to say I don't like her, but she does have issues that just profound issues. And that's why I thought I need to help my husband by any means necessary. But anyway, my grandmother, my mother-in-law said that about the girls. And I was like, okay, well, now you're saying that. When you're trying to intervene, why didn't you not say that before, right? And that's what brings me to tradition, right? Because before, millions of guests, stop making my husband, stop. I am saying, no, you guys are not adults. And this is how I treat my own kids, and this is how you're going to be treated, right? The minimum I was expecting from my mother-in-law is to say, hey, this is great. I'm glad that David's wife, lady, is not taking charge and helping these kids. All right? And that's the kind of mindset I'm asking from these folks. Trying to elevate yourself. All right? Elevate yourself from what is being presented. For me, actually, I didn't take any tradition away from these girls because, hey, they're definitely not leftists. Emily, when in fact, let me tell you this, as much as I like her, she did something I dislike. One day, after our wedding, I think, she was complaining. She got a registration card, and the registration card say that she registered as a Democrat. And she did not like that because she's not a Democrat. That's black folk. She's a Republican. So she trying to make a fuss with my husband. I said my husband didn't have anything to do with it. I was like, Did Emily, did David register you? So if you have a problem with your registration, you gotta go to figure it out and leave my husband out of it. Right? Now, why would I be saying something like that? It's because Emily, by this point, she knows me for a long time. Why would she register Republican when I constantly complain about Republicans? Now, I don't care. She can be whatever she wants to be. But I already know that she's keeping the tradition going here. She is a Republican because her dad is a Republican. Everybody in the family is a Republican. So I don't think my mother-in-law should be worried. Right? So that's just the kind of thinking I think we should be getting here. Right? Now, when it comes to these kids, right? So the thing is this. They want to leave them stuff. They want them to be good. Right? They in the case of Christine, she's concerned that these kids, they do not have they only have a shadow. Right? They're not like other kids who don't have who have a regular mother, not a shadow. Alright, sure. This is how I look at it. I told you I've been with my husband for a long time. Right? I've been with him for a very long time. And typically I work, but during the day when I have my little break or lunch, I will call my husband sometime. Now my husband is a firefighter and he works almost 2 days a week. So most of the time he's not working. He's at home with his kids. Now these are the kids who have been with their father most of their lives. Okay, not like my kids though. My kids barely see me because I had to work. So they spend a considerable amount of time, and my husband spent excessive time with them. He gives them everything, movies, anything they want. These kids are like princesses. They get whatever they want, as far as I'm concerned. But sometimes when I do call him, he is not in his house. He is somewhere else. He is with the Shadow family, with these kids, right? So that's what's happening here, and that's all cool. So that's been like that for years, almost all the years he would do that. Now, when I told you like the kind of qualities I love about my husband, that's one of them. He's making an effort. He is taking these kids to their shadow, their family, and he does that. Now, for my husband, I don't think he liked them very much, right? He doesn't, but he knows that hey, these kids related to these people, and I'm just gonna try to make the effort, right? That's the kind of thing that my ex-husband too, although the marriage didn't work out, but he is the kind of man who would do something like that, okay? And I like that, okay? I really like that a lot. So he does that. All right, so then when that incident that I told you happened with us and Lacey graduation, and she brought out the shadow. So one day I'm just taking a walk with my husband on the trail like we usually do. I asked about the fact, like, hey, this kid is asking about the shadow. Are they still in contact with the Shadow family? And my husband said, no, they don't like them because the Shadow family is quote unquote white trash. Right? That's what my husband said. When my husband said that, I mean, by this time, these kids, I have a strong reservation for them. The reservation went to the max. I see how this is. So in my estimation, I see how it is. This is quote unquote white trash. But they whining about the shadow. Hey, the shadow and family are the same thing. And who they think they are? They are part of the shadow. So that was a white dress and not them. I don't like it. So anyway, I left it at that. And I didn't say anything. So after that happened, actually, not that. Okay, so that's that. That's how they think about the shadow family. It is white dress. But I know that these kids are very close to my mother-in-law. They adore her. Let me put it that way. They adore her to death. So I thought about this. Okay, for these girls, these two white girls, my husband's children, they love my mother-in-law. Now, if you go to my mother-in-law, she lives in a suburban neighborhood. I don't know what the prices is. I assume that the houses in this area, it goes close up, like not quite $1 million, but maybe close to $1 million, or maybe a half of that. I don't know. I don't care. It's just that kind of thing. And my mother-in-law is a 3-car garage, which I complain about. I'm not talking about her. I'm just talking about generally that middle class white folk, and black folks too, some of them. So that's that. Now, her house is beautiful and perfect. And my mother-in-law overall, she just a woman like my mom. She has good taste, right? She just well put together. This is the kind of individuals we would like to see. And that's just how she is. And the kids like her, and she take care of them. She does lacy hair. She likes them. She concerned about what they wear. Like Emily does not like to dress, but Jean does encourage her to dress sometimes, because sometimes when they go ready to go there or something, Lacey would tell Emily, hey, Emily, dress nice. Grandmother wanting you to look good. So I picked that up. So they close, okay? And I know because she been taking care of them for a long time. So that's the context here. And then there's Henry, who also adores them. And I know because there's plenty pictures and everything. My Jean and Henry always go to participate when they're in school. So overall, Henry and if you don't know who Henry is the common-law of my mother-in-law, Jean. Right? So these kids are well taken care of by them and my husband and everything like that. So the kids are looking at this. This is how family's supposed to be. The way my husband's family is. They're just better off than the shadow family. Right? The shadow family is a struggling white folk, okay? Is a white folk who struggle with life in every conceivable way. They're not trash. They're just people who struggle like black folk. That's who they are, right? They're U.S. citizens, right? They may not have, they may have health problems, they may have maybe drug problem, what have you. But that's their family though. That is the family. And what I love about my husband is, although he knows how they are, and that's not his background though. He comes from a better off family. He still takes them there. In fact, he married and had children with people that come from that background. And that speaks volume for me. And he's, in a way, my husband is not ruminative like me. And honestly, I don't think I ever done something like take my kids to my ex-husband's family. It's not a thing. Although I'm in contact with them on Facebook and they live in New York or something like that. I never consider doing stuff like that. I never have to. I barely can. I don't have time and everything. But he does that. So I like that a whole lot. But his kids though, they're not picking up this ethos of my husband that he has. And for me, that's a problem. Okay, let me just put it that way. So you will see why I would be not too impressed with these daughters of his, to say the least. But what I'm trying to say here is this. So for these kids, they have reservation. They love the illusion of the shadow. They do love that. And they miss that instead of concentrating on the fact that their father's right there in front of them, all right? And they're gonna make a big fuss that their father is now with the brownie. Instead of respecting the father is with the brownie, even if I was prostitute or what have you, it's really not their business. But there's something about the shadow, okay? And and so now you will see why I would be not like have fuzzy feelings with what's going on here. But what I'm trying to say is this: for them, that's bad. Those are white trash. But my husband's family is not white trash. They have 3-car garage. They have good cars. They give us money. Oh, lots of it, and birthdays, what have you. And so this is perfect. I fine. I'm glad you like that. You like good things. But hey, if you like good things, my understanding based on what Republicans tell us, you gotta pull yourself by the bootstrap. Hey, you better get to work so you can get those things. And for me, the way I see this, if you like those things, right, and you don't want to wind up though like those trusts that you don't care to visit now that your dad not obligated to take you, or not he was not obligated before, but he, you know what I mean, you're not adult, you should be able to not do those things on your own. I'm not gonna really feel bad for you if my husband, God forbid, he go before me, and you're not gonna get shit. Let me put it to you that way. Now, I do want to say this. I would want to say this. Right. Now, for my mother-in-law, as you can see, she recently was in a hospital. Right? She recently was in a hospital. She could have died, but she didn't. I didn't know she was not going to be dead. And she really wanted to insult me for the last time before she go. And I'm glad it backfired on her because it didn't happen. I just want this woman to understand me here. She think I'm a villain and stuff. I don't think she's a villain to me. I think she's interesting. All right, she just rubbed me the right way. Because I'm a leftist. I dig these types of things. That day when she came here and she called my husband picked up an attitude. Okay, he did. He loved his mother and respect and grateful for all she did for him, helping him with his kids. But part of the reason, or if you don't know this yet, why I love this man, it's just although he's not as profound as me, I would say, he's just a solid human being. He does not play no games, like I say. When she called him, my husband picked up an attitude like, this is my life. I don't understand what this is. It's as if I don't want to say trying to manipulate him or trying to, something they was trying to do here. And my husband picked that up. I cannot articulate it, but there's something they wanted to do to him. And there's something that she didn't do, and I'm glad she didn't, because if she would have done that, she would have really get to know my husband better that day, right? Now, it's up to her what she's gonna do with this, but if she's smart, she should reconsider how she treat my husband, so to speak, right? I just want to say that because my husband is although it doesn't matter, like for example, it doesn't matter. My husband, the way I understand it, he just want to preserve dignity, so to speak. Like she want to preserve respect for her. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, he trying to preserve respect for her, even though they're doing things that really disrespecting him, thinking they're doing that to me. They're not really doing that to me because I don't care, right? Because I'm a critic of all of this. But my husband do want preserve dignity between them. If she would have done what I think she could have done that day, to my husband, my husband was gonna lose respect for her, so to speak, right? I like to think that. I like to think that, and this is how I think. Now, going back to my mother-in-law here for a second, she did mention one thing, right? She did. That day that when that me and Christine got into it, she also said that. She said that these girls not really in contact with the other family, right? And I'm glad that she did that. But there was a stepfather she should have inquired. Why not? Right? And if the girls told her what my husband was saying, quote unquote, the white dress, then I think it should have took upon herself to correct them if she had any sense. And that's the kind of elevated thinking I'm asking from these folks. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. We're going to go back to tomorrow and we will continue with this play. So now let's go back to Dr. Parenti, Black Shirts and Reds, the rationalize of fascism and the overthrow of communism. All right. Okay, so, okay. How is this? Okay, so today is shock therapy. Yay! Shock therapy. Remember what shock therapy is? It's when they overthrow the USSR, and now they just destroy all the public industry and replace them with the privatized and wreck the whole thing, and it caused a tremendous suffering in this region and Eastern Europe, with 17 million people were wiped off and still struggling. And we read that on the neoliberal Holocaust, and it's a piece that I really really enjoy, and I hope if you guys want to hear that, let me know. All right, but anyway, let's start. Unemployment rates have risen as high as 30% in countries that once knew full employment under communism. One police worker claimed that the jobless are pretty much unemployable after age 40. Polish women say economic demise comes earlier for them, since to get a job, as one puts it, quote, you must be young, childless, and have big bosom, close quote. That was reported in The Nation on December 7, 1992. Occupation safety is now almost non-existent, and workplace injuries and deaths have drastically increased. Workers now toil harder and longer for less, often in sweatshop conditions. Teachers, scientists, factory workers, and countless others struggle for months without pay as their employers run out of funds. That was reported in Los Angeles Times on January 17, 1996. The wave of strikers and war stoppages in Russia and Eastern Europe are accorded unsympathetic press treatment in those countries. Even in the few remaining countries in which communist governments remain controlled, such as China, Vietnam, and Cuba, the opening to private investment has contributed to a growing inequality in Cuba. The dollar economy has brought with it a growth in prostitution, including girls as young as 11 and 12, street beggars, and black markets dealings with tourists. Avi Chomsky, Cuba update in September 1996. That was reported in Avi Chomsky. Now, if you listen to that stuff, that is the symptoms of capitalism, okay? Capitalism just create all these vices, all these issues. But for white folks who profit from capitalism, because all of that is profitable for the individuals or private, but it's really bad for society. Okay, so what I'm trying to see here with white folks is let's abandon capitalism as much as we can, and let's consider something else. What's actually good for society? Okay, so that we won't have quote unquote white trash and have these strange looking black folks. Okay, that's that, like that, who struggle, and we can actually have people who behave more or less the way we expect, except we are asking them to pull themselves by the bootstrap when it is really difficult to do that. Because I don't know if you ever trying to see how you pull yourself by the bootstrap and see, then tell me what happened. Let's keep going. In China, there are workers who now put in 12 or to 16-hour days for subsistence pay without regular getting a day off. Those who protest against poor safety and health conditions risk being fired or jailed. The markets reform in China have also brought a return of child labor. And this was reported in San Francisco Chronicle on August 14, 1990. Quote, I think this is what happened when you have private companies, close quote, says Miss Penn, a young migrant who has brought about the new China. Quote, in private company, you know the workers don't have right, close quote. And this was reported in the Washington Journal on May 19, 1994. Throughout Eastern Europe, unions have been greatly weakened or broken. Sick leave, maternity leave, pay, vaccination, and other job benefits once are taken for granted under communism have been cut or abolished. Workers, sanitarium, vacation, resort, health clinic, sports, cultural center, children, nursery, daycare centers, and other features that make communist enterprise more than just workers have nearly vanished. Rest home, formerly reserved for workers, have been privatized and turned into casinos, nightclubs, and restaurants for the nouveau rich. Real income has shrunk by as much as 30 to 40% in ex-communist countries. In 1992 alone, Russia saw his consumer spending drop by 38%. By comparison, during the Great Depression, consumer spending in the United States fell 21% over 4 years. In both Poland and Bulgaria, an estimate 70% now live below or just above the poverty line. In Russia, it is 75 to 80%, with a third of the population barely subsisting in absolute economic depression. In Hungary, which has received most of the West investment in Eastern Europe, over one third of his citizens live in abject poverty, and 70% of men hold 2 or more jobs, working up to 14 hours a day, according to the Ministry of Labor. After months of not getting paid, coal miners in Far East Russia were beginning to starve. By August 1996, 10,000 of them had stopped working simply because they were too weak from hunger. With no coal being extracted, the region power plants began to shut down, threatening an electrical blackout that will further harm the nation's Pacific Coast industries and trade. That was reported in Los Angeles Times on August 3, 1996. Eastern Europeans are witnessing a scene, quote, that are the commonplace enough in the West, but are still wrenching here. The old men are ruminating through trash barrels for the takeaways item. The old woman picking up throughout a box of bones at meat markets in search of one with enough grizzly to make a thin soup. That was reported in Los Angeles Times on March 10, 1990. With their savings and pensions swallowing up by inflation, elderly pensioners crowd the sidewalk of Moscow selling articles of their clothing and other pathetic wares. while enduring harassment by police and thugs. Washington Post reported this on January 1st, 1996. A Russian senior citizen referred to quote, this poverty with only a few have-escaped, close quote, while some, quote, have become widely rich, close quote. That was reported modern maturity on September and October of 1994. Alright, so we'll leave it there today. So we know that was a shock therapy for you. Alright? This is what capitalism do. It do shock therapy. Alright? I just do all kinds of bad things. And I'm asking my Republican family here to help me out. Let's do less capitalism and let's think about people, families. Not just Emily and Lacey, but think about quote unquote the white trash where they came from, and think about those people not as that, but as something that deserve your concern and care. And I know you guys love your red blood, but you need to think about more than your blood. You need to think about the whole, okay? And that when we do that, hey, what do? We bring this world to a better place. So for that, we are gonna leave it here. We'll pick up tomorrow. To another place. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Please subscribe. I haven't gotten any subscription in 2 days. I like the reaction I got from yesterday, from my episode yesterday. But I want you to watch all the episodes. They're all good. And on Facebook, I like people watching on Facebook. Usually I got a high number in Facebook. It was drastically cut yesterday. I don't know if it's people just now don't want it, or I think it has something to do with the fact that Facebook is run by FBI and the CIA and stuff, and they just don't like these kind of ideas out there, okay? I'm trying to elevate white folk from what I call primal thinking to a more sophisticated one. And they don't like that. They like white folk primal. And let's not do that. I know white folks smart, and we should not let them stay the same level as quote unquote monkeys. I want them to elevate themselves to the human level, okay? That's my thing. Alright, let's go back to what do you guys want to hear? How about this? Let's listen to something different. We're gonna listen to Local H. We call Everyone Alive. That's the thing we're gonna sing. We're gonna rock out today.
Taxes
okay?
was chasing
Let's
updates.
rock out.
Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert, doing it all for you, so you can chase this feeling. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
I got your pizza. Hot!
We should order pizza every game.
Annoying.